here in the room. But let me set a second lens of the context. And I think data is important. I know somebody came from a data company here. 8 out of 10 Nigerians, 8 out of 10 Nigerians, so there's a national housing strategy that's just been finalized, so that 8 out of 10 Nigerians are either without a decent home, okay, are either without a decent home, that's a home that meets the basic standards that the United Nations describes: water, is weatherproof, sanitation, or don't have a home at all. Okay, so that's just so that is our reality. But more significantly, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics in their last income studies, 2020, there's a new one just beginning to start, says that 83 million Nigerians, that's about 40% of our population, is earning less than 137,000 naira per annum. Okay? 83 million Nigerians are earning less than 137,430 naira per annum. These are our realities. So when we have a discussion about provision of housing, if it is to be inclusive, we cannot neglect some of this data, some of this information. So part of our challenge is how do we address that significant part of our population who are on very, very low income. Okay? A solution that seeks to address a small proportion of the population clearly cannot be sustainable. So that's the second context. The third context, and I think the chairman of council mentioned this in her speech, is the fact that the government, and already you are all hearing the news about the 2023 budget, the likelihood that there will be no capital provision from government, very tight fiscal condition that we now are at. That means that we can't rely on government to meet these needs, okay? But this need must be met. It's not just being met for social purposes only, it also needs to be met for the expansion of our economy. And you just think of the untapped economic potential that is there with so much of housing need by people who actually very desperately need across different parts of the value chain for housing. So of course, the most oft-repeated are developers, and there will be a lot of developers in the room. Very key partners, and again, the fund is committed to improving how we work with you. It's improving how we work with you. One of the key metrics for the team is beginning to measure what the time scale is for us originating financing for new housing deals, to ensure that we're able to get the money out to you very quickly. I feel that there is no constraints around the discussion. Generally, we've always kept this to be Chatham rules. We're open to a lot of criticism because we learn from it. But let us be engaged. Our hearts are open, our minds are open to learn. And again, I want to thank you for the valuable time that you've given up to spend this morning and this afternoon with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The MD CEO Family Homes Fund, Mr. Femi Adewole. Please, I encourage you to share him one more time. So, moving on quickly, I'm going to introduce the co-founder, managing director of Correct This Time Aliter Capital, Madam Jumoke Akimumi. She's going to share some thoughts on affordable housing finance in Nigeria. Please make her welcome.
Right, good morning everyone, and thank you for spending time here. I say it on behalf of the family members. And I'm very pleased to be here. So I was asked to share my thoughts, and I like that kind of subject matter. Share your thoughts means, I can just talk slightly randomly. So I'm going to be speaking around 3 key themes. And the first has to do with us, the practitioners in the industry, and the work that I think that we have left undone, that we need to do to attract, whether it's public capital or private capital. I don't know if for a fact we have a full grasp of the multi-pronged benefits that come out of when there's an optimal finance ecosystem that exists. Because a lot of the conversations we have, we kind of tend to narrow it down. Mr. Adewale was speaking and he said, yes, we'll talk to developers, that's brilliant, but the value chain is far more extensive than that. He mentioned insurance. How many of us are aware of the critical impact that insurance can do and guarantees can have on the delivery of affordable housing? So let's set aside these conversations about developers need cheaper sources of funding. That's already a fact and it's a given. Or that the mortgage rate needs to be single digit. We've been talking about this for decades. And let's think about it from the perspective of even the best economies where we kind of envy, if we like, because we see that they have a track record and a success of the delivery of affordable housing. Even in those economies, the typical developer is not relying on one source of funding. What you find is there's a capital stack that is so complicated compared to the product that's being delivered. And I've seen some transactions where there are up to 20 parties participating in the delivery of affordable housing. So it's not, in our minds, it's not as simple as we make it. It's not a question of, say, the Federal Mortgage Bank ensuring that they are able to lend at 6%. It's a whole lot more than that. We have to think broadly, and I know it probably means the same thing. Deepening the market is also a phrase that we hear regularly. I think we should start to think about broadening the market. So where's the universe of capital? And we must chase after that, or create the enabling environment so that that capital becomes available. If you take the US as a case in point, if you look at the capital stack, there's money that comes from public sector, clearly, because they also have policies that's backed by cash. I think FHF is very fortunate in that it has been able to pull on the commitment of the federal government to a large extent. But there are many policies that have been created that haven't been backed by the right. At the end of the day, cash is king, right? That haven't been backed by cash. So we have a role to play here to educate ourselves properly about what the delivery of affordable housing means from the finance perspective. The universe of capital is always going to be a challenge. There's never a time that is going to be easy. There's no country in the world that can say categorically, maybe perhaps the exception would probably be Singapore, where it seems to me like they have resolved this, they have some magic and they have used that to resolve their housing, affordable housing challenge. So we talk public and private capital. Now, public capital, like in the case of FHF, deliberate and directly channeled for a purpose. Private capital doesn't work like that. I mean, I know Alithia is an impact fund manager. However, the thinking that impact means less of financial returns is also something that we need to get rid of very quickly. Because if there's no financial return, then we cannot be discussing sustainable financing in a sustainable way. So it's just that what happens is that there's also a social engagement, a social agreement, and an environmental agreement backing the financial commitments that we have to make. So education for me is a very important thing. Even some of the conversations that we've already had here today tells me that we need to educate ourselves properly. And I really want to encourage all the bodies, the associations, and so on, that we have to not wait for a special event to have this kind of campaigns where we are teaching and training ourselves about what it means to finance affordable housing. So the second thing that I want to talk about is, so how can we get should I say, investor interest, and what are the things that have happened. And I'll try and keep to Africa. I mean, I mentioned Singapore because I thought that everybody generally knows that that's a success story. But staying within Africa, what are the successful affordable housing programs? And success, again, I repeat, is sustainable and it is inclusive. I would use, and we've probably talked about this before, definitely I've shared it with a number of people here. ACON, is that what the entity? Oh, yes. So I looked at that as a case study and I thought, what has made this particular, so the basic story is that ACON is a developer, and they have successfully been backed by the Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund, and Emerging Africa Infrastructure Fund came along not just with equity, but also with guarantees and technical assistance. So again, and the technical assistance is not free, so also this is something that we also have to think about, that we think about grants and we think, oh, if you could just get a grant. Technically, in this case, it's not free. It is being partially paid back. But that was meant and directed towards ensuring that they could provide guarantees for the investors. Then this is now being listed, I believe, in the Nairobi Stock Exchange and also, I think, even in the London Stock Exchange. So what you see and what is happening is this capital stack, we have to think about it holistically. It's not one directional. If until that full cycle is complete, we would not achieve the outcomes that we expect to achieve time and time again. So we're talking sustainability in this case. So, and more than that, the other thing that I have to point out in this is that they determined from the beginning that the product that they were delivering into the market was going to meet every green criteria that could meet. What does that mean? It means that they were also opening themselves up for another source of funding. Remember the conversation about capital stack. So this is really about where are these options and the sources of funding, and how can we aggregate this together to achieve. Because even in the most developed economies, the funders of affordable housing, in most cases, are not the ones with the trillion-dollar budgets. So it means that as a promoter or developer, I must understand the network and be able to aggregate the bits of money that comes from all of these potential investors. So in the summary of this particular case study is that there was a project finance package, there was a technical assistance package that was actually not product development technical assistance, but financing technical assistance. There was long-term debt, there was a contingent credit solution, and then there was the opportunity to break that up by selling to the public. So that's the way that we all in the industry have to start to think about financing affordable housing. There are a couple of other case studies. Zambian Home Loans is an entity that is focusing really not on doing some new huge developments, but on looking at what exists in the market today, and we have the same situation in Nigeria. There are hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands actually, who have attempted self-build and are stuck halfway. So imagine that there is a facility to enable people to complete their homes. The first thing is that from the investor or lender's point of view, loan to value is already in their favor, because you're not talking about something that does not exist. It exists already. Now, that is a solution, and it's a solution that can touch hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. And we're talking about housing stock. He mentioned some specific data about either not having a home or not having a decent home. There are more people that don't have a decent home than that don't have a home. We also need to recognize that. And this kind of product is clearly a solution. The final one is a South African entity. I don't even know what the acronym is, but it's TUHF. Now, this is one that's dear to my heart, because I believe that this is a solution that can work in any city. And what does it do? It looks into neighborhoods, and yes, there is some government backing required to achieve this kind of thing, but what it does is regeneration projects where it is creating density, where density is possible, using existing infrastructure. Because, look, at the end of the day, I don't know who's going to solve our infrastructure challenge. If you talk to any developer here, the biggest issues that they have, past funding, is where the money goes. The money really should go into house building, for example, but it ends up going into providing transformers, which you transfer back to PHCN at the end of the day, doing the road from wherever it is, including bridges and massive culverts, just because it doesn't exist. But here we're talking about infills in cities, in urban areas, where the infrastructure exists. It might not be the best, but it is there. And what you're doing is just optimizing. And in the same time, you're upgrading, you're regenerating, you're creating pools of fresh new assets of the kind that is required in the market today, particularly for young people. And you can do that in the hundreds and in the thousands within the city. So those are, my few case studies. So how are we going to expand our universe of affordable housing finance? I think some of them I've already mentioned. We have to start thinking about new financing products. There's no way that we can rely on what exists currently. And when FHF talk about the fact that they have, I think you got the Sukuk bond. It's now nearly a year, is it? Oh, there you go. So, come on. So these are the things that we're talking about. It's about exploring the universe of funding. Now, we all know that capital will go only to where it is appreciated. And capital's definition of appreciation is, where can I make money? So the products, and we're not going to go into that conversation because we're really focusing on financing solutions. Our products themselves must speak a language that the finance understands. And that is that this thing makes money, it is sustainable, it is really solving a problem, it adds value. So whether it's it's green, it's whatever, it's passive homes, we're solving social problems because we're creating a pool of fresh talent, it's technology. Those are the things that will drive financing into affordable housing. I'm going to end now because I have to speak to the fact that in spite of everything, there's quite a bit of attraction for funding affordable housing. I use the UK market as my example. In the past couple of years, I don't know whether it was COVID and investors had the time to stop and think about life beyond life and decided that ESGs and the values of impact will become more important to them. Perhaps that is what it is. But whatever it is, what we have found is that there's a whole lot more money going into delivering housing for the underserved. So here we are moaning about the fact that we don't have access. I think that the bulk of the work is with us because the funds are there. And that might sound to some people who are sitting here like, what are you talking about? I've been knocking on the doors for a long time and nothing is coming. Look at your product again and then expand the universe of what is possible. So some data. So in the UK over the past few years, starting from just before COVID, growth in investing in affordable housing has moved from 10% of the universe of funding to 25%. This is just a few years. So what is expected in the next couple of years is that there will be more than 20 billion Great British pounds, not dollars. That's going to go into delivering over 130,000 affordable homes just in the next few years. So the issue of whether investors want to invest in affordable housing or not is not the point. That's not even a valid point. They do. They just want to see what the product is. Now, I understand that we're in an environment where there are issues. I mean, as a fund management company, we understand that one of the challenges that we have, and the reason why Alifia has not successfully raised an affordable housing fund, is because there is the impression that the market is opaque. Somebody mentioned data. But you know what? That problem rests with us. It has nothing to do with government or policies. It has to do with us, the practitioners in the market, and our willingness to aggregate and share data. And to be frank with all of us here, until we do that, until we have a market that is transparent, we will struggle to attract the right kind of capital in the quantum that we wanted to solve our problems. Right, so I think that I am going to stop there. I started with telling us that we need to educate ourselves, and I ended with telling us that we need to determine that we're going to create a market that is transparent and attractive to. So it starts and ends with us. I think that's what the summary of what I want to share with you is today. So thank you very much for listening.
So, Ma, you said your thoughts were going to be just random. This was anything but random. This was very, very well articulated. Please, one more round of applause for Madam Jumoke. So, moving on quickly, I'm going to invite the Chief Housing Investment Officer of Family Homes Funds, Mr. Sani Yakubu. He's going to have a presentation on assessing FHFL opportunities. Please make him welcome, everyone.
First, please permit me to join everyone that has come up to speak in thanking all of us for the time that we've made to be here. It's an opportunity for us in Family Homes Funds and in partnership with the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, not just to talk about what we're doing, but also to learn about what is deepening the market, what is critical to the market, what is essential for achieving the numbers that we are hoping that we can achieve. And Mr. Femi talked about developers and players in the housing value chain being very critical to this conversation. I think that is very important. I have a couple of slides and I would go through them very quickly. I just hope that these slides will make the point in not too many words. The first thing is to just talk a little bit more about Family Homes Funds. Essentially, most of this information has already been provided in terms of really what the government hope will be achieved. And I think that a lot of that point is around two elements that I hear from all the previous speakers. First, the impact that needs to be created to be able to reduce a mountain of difficulties and challenges with decent and affordable housing. In doing this, the government also hopes, and so Family Homes Funds is very critically driving this, that local markets in the area of housing or that relate to housing will grow, that will be able to create jobs for a lot of our young people who need to be engaged. Housing, as we all know it, has a value chain that brings a lot of value, not just to create economic advancement, but really stabilize society. I think we can move on to the next slide. That I hope that I'll be forgiven by the audience for choosing a couple of pictures. In every housing conference, there is a discussion around what the numbers are. What really are the numbers? So we can talk about the numbers ranging from a housing need of, is it 20 million, or is it 18, or is it 17? Okay, so out of 10 Nigerians, now we've come to the agreement that about 8 need somehow to have better housing. I think the picture speaks very clearly about where we are and where we want to get to in terms of what a lot of the members of our society require. I have just one or two more. Can we see them? And I think the last one, will also just show how much work that we have to do. But as it is very commonly said, everywhere and in every language, the word for challenge has two elements. It has two elements. One signifies danger, and fortunately the other one is about opportunity. So yes, it's true, we have like three pictures that demonstrate difficulty, demonstrate where we are and where we want to go to. But guess what? These three pictures also signify how much job creation can happen. They also signify different ways in which society can be further stabilized. They signify investment opportunities. And if we can bring it close to all of us gathered in this room, they also signify opportunities that the developers, that other players in the value chain can have working with family owns funds to resolve these issues. So yes, it's true, we're in a land where people are not wearing shoes, but guess what? It's an opportunity to sell shoes to them. Can we see the next slide? So really, how has family owns funds approached the idea of creating impact in this extremely critical sector? And our table here shows the elements in very simple form. We're looking to create decent, affordable housing. In the process, we want to do about 1.5 million jobs. What are the product ranges that we're looking at? So we can see affordable housing, we can see help to own, rental housing, land development. I'll come back to talk about each one of these. But the first thing I'd like to say is that while a lot of the other parts of the world, like my sister Jumoke has talked about, Singapore and the rest, experience challenges essentially in one aspect of the value chain. We, however, in Nigeria are blessed with challenges on both sides of the demand side of the value chain, so we have challenges with that. We also have challenges with the supply side of the value chain. So there's a challenge with how much Nigerians are earning, and there's a challenge with the number of houses that are available that even those Nigerians who can, would be able to pick up. So there are challenges on both the demand and the supply side. Family Homes Funds has thus looked at both aspects of the value chain and come up with fundamental product types that will address the need to create impact on both the demand and the supply side. So what are we doing in the housing stock side? Our Affordable Housing Fund is essentially a construction finance facility. So are you a developer? Are you speaking to us today? Are you in a meeting with us today? Do you have valuable land where affordable housing can be created? This is an opportunity for us to take the discussions further. Are you in the housing value chain, involved in construction or affordable housing creation in some form in which we've most of Nigeria's population is young and growing. And many young Nigerians are first thinking about graduating from school. Then they're thinking about putting a family together. And then they're thinking about owning a house. But before all of this, they need a place to live. And it would really be great if most of our young people had a place that they could just rent at an affordable rate. So we're working with housing corporations across the different parts of the country to see how we can do SPVs between ourselves and them and be able to put this product on the market. We're dealing with land development products, such as site and services, to be able to help increase the stock of housing with ease. So site and services, as we all know it as developers, help push the efforts of those who have the capacity to build houses on their own by simply putting infrastructure on ground. And so the typical average Nigerian with his very persistent spirit is able, over the course of time, to put together money and incrementally build their houses. A couple of other products that we have, such as incremental housing, and I'm happy that this was also alluded to. Most housing in Nigeria was not built in clusters of 250 or 500 and so on. My dad saved a bit and got a plot of land. Then he saved a bit and did a fence. Then he saved a bit and did a foundation. And then he saved a bit and built it up. And that's what most Nigerians are doing. So is there a product that adds to this value chain in terms of capital that is affordable and in terms of capital that is accessible? And is there a way to do this by working with financial institutions that address people at the lower level of society? So Family Homes Funds is currently reenacting an act with mortgage finance institutions and other such microfinance institutions in the housing sector to be able to say, okay, so you're saving to build the foundation. How much do you want to take between now and the next 12, 24 months in which you can pay? And when you finish that, then you come back and take another credit line that allows you to drive results in the next one. So are you a microfinance institution? Are you here in the audience? And this is one of the things that we can discuss with you about how or the ways in which we can achieve results. Of course, as an institution, we're looking forward to doing all of this by driving impact in a financially sustainable way, in a well-governed way, and our people are very significant to us in terms of how we do this. I'm happy to say that we've done thousands of small, decent houses across the entire country. So even though we started with those rather difficult pictures, the pictures that we see here are representative of housing products by Family Homes Funds. And that is a picture from one of our developments in Kano, while this other picture is from one of our developments in Delta. So we're driving these results in a way that we want to show that the governance structure of our institution is indeed one that we can be proud of. We're happy to say that we've recently received an A rating from a major player in the financial institution, an A rating agency in the financial institution sector. We're also happy to say that we are in collaboration with lots of players in the financial institutions space within Nigeria, outside Nigeria. Mr. Femi was alluding to the Sukuk. We've done 10 billion, and we're just about to do the next 20 billion. So this helps us, to improve our financial base or the capital stack. I like that phrase. I think it's one we'll take back to Abuja. Can we see the next slide? Yes. So a big question about how we can deal with the way the market is moving. Prices are changing, costs are rising, all kinds of permutations are shifting and changing all at the same time. How are we able to keep these prices within this affordable housing range? The first thing that we've done is speak to the state governments and say to them, look, one of the biggest benefits you can give to your people is a decent place to live. And I'm happy to say that well over 25 states in the country have provided reasonably large plots of land for affordable housing to be done. What has this done? So this has knocked off a key costs driver in terms of providing affordable housing. Now, I do know that there are quite a number of private sector players here. I'm not saying that the land you bring in terms of value must be knocked down to zero. But in the entire concept, and as you perceive what you deliver, we need to understand that the cost push factors need to be somehow controlled. We will not take out the value of the land, but we need other factors that bring the entire development costs in comparison to the eventual price, that bring it down in such a way that the final price is affordable. We also try to ensure that the design of the infrastructure helps us reduce costs. So if you want to do 250 housing units or 300 housing units, you can design the road networks to serve, each row of house facing the road. So you have a multiplicity of roads that optimizes the infrastructure. The way in which you design the infrastructure, the way in which you optimize the infrastructure is very critical to reducing the price that we get, ultimately. Then what kind of house do we have? What is the design? There's a saying today, and I think it's pedestrian, but I think it is pedestrian, but it illustrates the point. The world economy is becoming so tough that people are not cutting their coats according to their size, but according to their cloth. So what is it that we're designing today? If you have 50 million naira and you get a young architect graduating from school and you say to him, you want a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house, in 2 or 3 days he's come back to you with a design. But tell him that you have 3 million naira or 5 million naira. You think the same will happen? Surprisingly, even with developers that have spent a lot of time in the industry, one of our critical difficulties is in getting the developers to really come to terms with what is decent and affordable. Because it's easy to just look at how the cost elements are moving and say, no, the price of cement is this, the price of wood is this, and so the price of the house is X. But guess what? Who can afford it? So in our conversations today, I'm hoping that we'll be able to build a combination of all of this and see how and why we need to arrive at a price that is indeed affordable. Family Homes Funds has had meetings with key players in cement. Dangote's company, Boa, Lafarge. We've had meetings with these players, and we've gotten certain agreements and certain concessions with them that we're trying to implement today, so that we can use the economics of size to negotiate better prices for those that are partnering with us. In the same way, we've done that for wood, for other materials. We encourage every developer to look at the area in which that development is happening and see how we can use local materials and local resources to bring down the price. We also do know that bulk purchase is one area in which we can hedge against fluctuations. So a lot of our developments also do provide for fairly large amounts at the onset to be able to cater, to the materials and a lot of the cost push factors that affect the eventual cost. So if you work with us, we have this provision and we can bring it to play to be able to look at the prices. Can we see the next slide? We also, in Family Homes Funds, have a policy of ensuring that we are a socially responsible institution. So we are really concerned about the environment, and we're really concerned about gender mainstreaming. We're really concerned about how the local population is involved in what you're doing. So when you come with the designs, please put this environmentally sustainable fact about how you can easily green the environment. There's a big difference between a 300 housing unit estate that is on bare rubble and one that has green all over it with trees planted around. The environment is just totally different. So we urge all of our partners to look into this and ensure that they're able to make the right inputs with regards to these design elements. I'm not going to take too much of our time. I think I'm running towards the end of my presentation. So I'd just like to say that we have a critical contribution to our society at a point in which our very existence is probably the most challenged. Housing provides an opportunity for us to create economic advancement and social stability. It's a point that can't be underscored enough. Family Homes Funds comes to the table with an opportunity to interact with all players in the value chain. Our aim in coming to Lagos is to find out better, easier, faster ways of doing this. I want to say that we are still trying to find credible projects in Lagos. This is a fact. So we're not going to put it under the table. We have a good number of proposals on the table. We're looking forward to achieving. So if you're here today or you're listening online, it's an opportunity for us to transact and do business. Once again, I'd like to say thank you very much. I'd like to really say that we're happy to be here and we're happy to listen. We're happy to find ways to collaborate and to cooperate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Chief Housing Investment Officer, Family Homes Funds, Mr. Sani Yakubu. Please, a round of applause one more time. So if you can see your agenda, you can see that the next thing is tea break. But before that, I would like to speak a little bit about the session that follows. It's an interactive working session, which is primarily the most important activity today. So what we want to achieve with this session is we're going to have 4 major groups. So like the audience is going to be divided into 4 major groups. This session is going to be moderated by the MD of WEMA Board, Mr. Yemi a GD run. Correct this time. I hope so. So if you look at the agenda, you're going to see that we've identified 4 key blockade issues. So each group is going to focus on one of them. So each group is going to have a leader and a secretary. At the end of the sessions, the leader of the group is going to come to present on their findings. After that, then we're going to have reactions to that, majorly from our guest speakers so far. So, without much further ado, I think it's time for the tea break now. So, it's an opportunity for us to exercise a little bit. It's just for about 15 minutes, preferably in the fire, just outside here in the corridor. That sounds military, right? So just outside here by the corridor. So just help yourself. So we'll be back in 15 minutes. Thank you very much so far. So, can I have your attention one more time? Thank you for staying with us. So before I invite the moderator for this session, I'm going to say that we'll be, like I said earlier, we'll be in 4 working groups. And in these 4 working groups, we're also going to have key representatives from family homes funds in each of the groups. So we're going to have group A, B, C, D. So as we go around, we're going to take your group A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. So group A will convene on the first table here, group B on the table behind, group C on that, and then D on that. So the group will appoint a leader who will present the findings from the group after the session. So in group A, we're going to have from Family Homes Funds, Franklin Eseago, who is the head of legal. In group B, we're going to have Mr. Sani Yakubu, who is the Chief Housing Finance Officer, Chief Housing Investment Officer, Family Homes Funds. Then in group C, we'll have Mr. Femi Adewale, who is the MD of Family Homes Funds. And then in group D, we'll have Mr. Funsho Bodi, who is the head of affordable housing. So I'm now going to invite Mr. Yemi Ejidiron, the MD of Women Bond and Vice Chairman, MBCC Construction and Real Estate Group, to moderate this session. Please make him welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think the NCA had done almost 50% of my assignment this morning or this afternoon, and I must just go ahead and provide the basic information that is required for each committee to be able to work on their assignment. Few remarks from me. Let me first of all thank the President and Chairman of Council, Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, Mrs. Adeyemi, for gracing this occasion. I know you are extremely busy, and we can understand, even if you have to depart from us shortly, but we really appreciate your presence here this morning. I also like to thank Mr. Femi Adewale for bringing this presentation to the Chamber, and I think it's been quite insightful and instructive. And just like Mrs. Jumoke Akinwumi said earlier on, this is the work for everybody in this room and for all practitioners and everybody watching us online at this point in time. The built environment requires new initiatives and strategy to be able to drive growth in providing affordable homes in Nigeria. And the reality of the matter is that engagement of this nature, advocacies of this nature, can only enable us to realize that objective as fast as possible, and within the dynamics of the macroeconomic challenges that we face in this country today. The important thing for us to address in our discussion is to also fully understand that there are serious blockages, there are hindrances that blocks us from accessing home, especially affordable homes, major hindrances. And it is important for us to address those key issues in the value chain of accessing home ownership in our conversation. And how do we address a major component of our conversation also has to do with the demand and the supply incongruency that we have seen. In as much as there are depth of funds that are available, I mean, listening to Jumoke earlier on, there is no prayer that the funds are just there, in various sources. It's just for us to tap. But the major challenge has to do with effective demand. So we are not short of supply, to be honest with you. But how can we make demand to be as effective? Everybody wants homes. Everybody wants home, no matter how lowly placed you are. But the reality of the matter is that there are major constraints in accessing those homes. So how do we address effective demand? It's one of the major conversations that we're going to be having. And it's a major, when I listened to the statistics reeled out by Jumoke earlier on, literally what it means. By Mr. Femi Adewale, Literally what it means is that 83 million Nigerians are actually living below $20 per annum. $20, because at 183,000, you can only get $20. And this is the hourly rate for even starters, working in other parts of the world. So it's a major challenge. And unfortunately, we need also to address the issue of realistic affordability to access affordable homes. There is no affordable cement. There is no affordable reinforcement. And yet we don't have the required technology to be able to produce affordable homes. And we still use all these major ingredients, in arriving at those affordable homes. How realistic are those expectations? So just go to the issues that we need to discuss. The MC has defined how we are going to go into groups. And it's important for us. I'm quite happy that this hall is near full, and I'm sure folks are also watching us online. I know you are extremely busy, but I'd like to encourage every one of us to do our best in contributing to the conversations that we're going to be having this afternoon. I heard some of us at the door there. Go and bring the cement, go and arrange the ladder. I know you are very busy. But at least for the next 30 minutes or thereabout, we're going to be having this conversation. Please, let's put in our best so that we can get maximum return on this exercise that we are having. So, we are going to split this audience, this room, into 4 groups, like had been announced, to discuss major challenges that we face, blockages, issues that we face in providing affordable homes in Nigeria. The first group will discuss acceptable collateral structures. So that is Group A. What are the acceptable collateral structures and what are the options that are available? That group should essentially look at what are collaterals. We need to discuss various types of collaterals. What are the secured type of real estate investment collaterals that are acceptable to investors and financial institutions? How can you access these collaterals? And how do I verify such collaterals? These are just basic points that we can take a look at in that conversation. To join Group A is Franklin, Head of Legal Family Owned Funds. And like the MC said, I think what we are going to do is to identify each table that will be in Group A, those that will be in Group B, C, and D. So, and the way I will go is I will be counting each table. So from my left, this is Table A, Table B, Table C, and D. A, B, C, D. So if you are in Table A, please just stay at this corner. If you are in Table B, just stay at that corner. If you are in Table C, you'll be at that corner. If you are in Table D, you'll be at this corner. So this is A, B, C, and D. Then this is another A, and B, and C, and D. I'm confused though. A, B, C, D. And this is A, I'm correct here, A, and this is B, and this is C, and this is D. So we are not counting this table because we are already diffusing into the table. So we have that complete, A, B, C, D. We know ourselves now. Thank you very much. So let me go and provide the background information for Group B now. I've done that for A. So for B, acceptable land titles. You probably know more than I do that even having your certificate of occupancy is not a potential indivisibility for that title in itself. There are so many people that have had CFOs in this country and they did get contested and they lost. So it's important for us to identify different types of titles that are available, identify ways by which we can prove the genuinity of those title documents, and what are the 3 most acceptable land titles that are available in the real estate sector, and also discuss, is the certificate of occupancy indivisible in the real sense? We need to discuss. I just want us to discuss that and bring out some opinions around that. Group C, options for delivering offtake assurances. What are the options for delivering offtake assurances? This is addressing the demand side that we were talking about earlier on. Who is an offtaker? Identify various options of available offtake in the real estate sector, and what are new initiatives and strategies for bringing discerning and prospective homeowners into the successful off-taking bracket. Just like I said earlier, there are a lot of people that want to access home, but they are not even aware of steps to take to be able to come into that off-taking bracket. What are the things that are required of them to do? What are the challenges, what are the constraints they are facing that are required to be addressed? It's important for that committee to deal on that. Then the last committee, Committee D, Group D, will have to discuss on the issue of pricing and tenure. And I was having a conversation with Mr. Adewale earlier on. I think we should start with tenure. And just to borrow from what we discussed, for the business now, family-owned funds, I understand that the maximum development tenure that is available is about 3 years. But the reality of the matter is that with poor cash flow of off-takers and all that, is 3 years actually sustainable? And at what interest rate will that be available? If it's not sustainable, are there ideas that can be generated by the group that were selected to see how that can be further enhanced and make home ownership accessible to prospective homeowners? And what is the current lending rate? I am aware that the current lending rate for development is about 10% now. What is the tolerance limit that we can have? Because the reality of the matter is that for low-income development, low-income priced development, 10%, yeah, may be even high. But is there any way we can go below 10%? And for luxury or premium home development, the reality of the matter is most of those development, because of the availability of funds to access homes in that bracket, the interest rate can actually, move up and down, as high as 15%, and it can still be absorbed. So we need to also be able to discuss, can there be differentiating rates in the development of this nature that have a component of high end and low end, and then differentiating interest rates regime, just for us to be able to open the door for more people to come into the bracket of accessing homes. So on this note, I would like to ask each group to move to where we're supposed to discuss, and I think we can do with 15 minutes. Is 15 minutes okay for each group to have this conversation? I hope it's not too much. Sorry? Minimum 20 minutes? Okay. So 20 minutes for each group to discuss. I want to encourage each group, amongst yourself, you need to elect a leader. A leader who will coordinate their affairs and then come here to be able to present the position of your group. Like I said, I want us to take this exercise very seriously because issues arising from this conversation will go a long way in helping the real estate sector of our economy to grow. Once again, I want to thank you very much for attending this session, and then we meet after 20 minutes. Thank you and God bless. Group A on this side, Group B at that corner, Group C at this corner. We might have to join tables together so that we can be and then Group D here. Thank you. 20 minutes has started.
So let's get started. My name is God. Who is the leader of the group? The people who are chairman here. You have to moderate. You can moderate. Moderation is also chairman. Chairman of the group. Let's have a secretary to write down. We can't have another. We have already have a secretary. Who is the secretary? We have a secretary. Pick it up. Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I'm Dylan Major, chairman of the Legacy Association of Nigeria. Very important and very interesting.
Yes, it's working for those online. For those online.
Very important. Now we are looking at. It's working for the online. So I will want, first of all, let's introduce ourselves. Let's be friends. I'm dealing with my name. I run Revolution Plus Property, and I'm also the chairman of Redan Lagos chapter. He's Toby Father, the secretary of Redan, and also the MDC of Anera Homes. And that's Mr. Shegun. Because of time, I'm going to introduce the members. Shegun Shudayo is the chairman of our intergovernment agency committee, and also the CEO of Agri Investment and Major Developers in Lagos. Sitting right beside me is Solomon Diri, CEO of Said Properties. Business, okay. Dumbbells. That's Daniel NMO, CEO of Dumbbell Properties. Affordable Lekki Homes. That's Mr. Bumi Felix. So you're welcome. And that's our treasurer, the man handling all red dance man. I do over there. Toby Oshoni. Those are like our members. So we are all one on this table. So my name is Adele. I'm the CEO of Remas. saw your card.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kenny Walker.
Thank you so very much, everyone, for coming, first of all. Now, very important topic. How do you want us to play about this? We have number one, acceptable collateral structures and options. That's the only one we are talking about, right? That's the only topic Group A is talking about.
Acceptable land titles.
Yes, acceptable collateral structures and options. Two is land titles. Group 2, Group B is land titles. Group C is options for the real. So it's an open conversation. So it's thrown open. What do you think are the acceptable collateral structures for options? So many of us are developers, and some of us have been in this business for 30, 40, 20 years. I'm sure we must have had one or two structures with banks and also with clients, customers. So what do you think are the most acceptable? For me, most of the things people think are the most acceptable are not even the most acceptable. So that's my own personal opinion anyway. Because when you approach banks, the next thing they say, do you have CFO? Well, I look at over the years what has been practically, what is acceptable, even to me as an individual. In finance, I've told them several times, whenever I have the opportunity to talk to them, I say, you guys are looking at the wrong things. Because if you are saying, okay, if I don't have a CFO, you can't give me finance, no problem. But there are stronger titles. I think, in my opinion, are even stronger than this. I think the banks should, any finance thing, like having funds, and everybody should look at when you are doing finance. That's my opinion. So let's do it. Thank you. I would want to give a short contribution.
So we're talking about collateral that one can use to access funding for home development.
Yes, ma'am. In your own opinion, what do you think the most acceptable collateral for funding? There's different type of collateral. We have the CFO, government sponsor, accession, all of them.
Okay, so this is for development. That means you have
for
the
development, you must, before bank and finance, you must have finance. You must have a building investment to finance the construction.
Okay. So I would say the land itself should be good collateral. And if you also show that you have some part of the funding for the development. For instance, yes, your own entity plus the land. I would say that should fall under the collateral.
But there are so many lands everywhere. There are so many lands that you don't have time. I'm back to that.
Yeah, so we're talking about a land that has a title. If you don't have title, you don't own the land. So you won't even be approaching the bank. Right?
Okay, let me just add to what you said. Some banks now, good morning once again. Some banks now, they don't even take just pledging of the end as collateral anyway. So now I think this is what's the best way can we come to open minds on the bank. Because several we've met several banks and they say, the land, even though it has problem, it's still not. So this is where we have to play something. We have to strategically look at it together. Because this is something we have to discuss and take back to them to say, okay, there are other ways. Even though the land has a good title, okay, let's take it this way. Because you're looking at the collateral stuff. Let's assume the land is 7,000 square meters, and maybe there's just a little more structure. But the structure is as good as good value in a matter of time. So I think once there's a good structure in that land, then it can stand as a collateral. It's no longer a bare land because the structure is standing there. So for the land, the structure has increased the value. So I think the bank should be able to go with that. So it goes beyond just the bare land as
Okay, thank you. I know what we're actually discussing is affordable housing. You see, well, like we've just discussed it here. Affordable housing is the affordable capital. So most of the time, I've come across these discussions several places and several times, and even when solutions are profiled, at the end of the day, you see, by default, we just shift the whole thing again to the high-priced houses, and because it is very, very difficult, especially in an environment like ours here, to talk about affordable housing, because the source of funds, both for affordable and high-priced or non-affordable, they're sourced from the same place. The hiccups are the same, and whenever you face these hiccups, which cost you a lot of money, at the end of the day, you want to recover your money. Will you recover it talking about affordable again? So this is where, would I say, discounts or subsidizing this sector comes into place. So when you are even talking about collateral, by the time you mention collateral, the thing has moved away from affordable. Sincerely speaking, once you talk about collateral, it has moved away. So for many years, yes, it was sometime about 10 years ago, about 7 years ago, we attended a conference, an international real estate federation conference, and somebody from Singapore came to pose around that they have about 96% ownership of property in their country. So how did they do it? I'm sure it couldn't have been through provision of collateral by anybody. So if we're here today discussing affordable housing, then we still talk about who providing collateral. Sincerely speaking, it's just windy rhetorics that we are embarking on here. Except we are not talking about affordable housing. So long as affordable housing, we must talk about subsidizing it, and that comes to what comes to play is the government involvement. But in an environment like a country again, can it even work? That's just the way I see it. So I would say the collateral there should be the human trust there. Then the government providing the security themselves, so that whoever defaults, you must pay for it. That should be the collateral we are talking about. Just make sure there be some element of trust. That's where, because the banks, everybody is allowed to operate by default. If you can't, the security is not for the bank to provide. Security providers should provide security for the banks. Let the banks now do the technical aspect of the job, provide the service. While if anybody defaults, somebody wants to flout the agreements, they call the authorities, come and protect us. When that service from the authorities is not provided, the bank will say, man, let me do whatever I can. And what it can do is to look for the best buyer, the best where their money is well best protected. You knock off the affordable. No. I'm saying the whole thing should be a joint mutual participation by both the government, who provides the security, the macho man watching over everybody, both watching the bank, watching the client, and so that once the agreement is reached, the bank would say, okay, you don't have money, see what we'll do for you. The property, you have land, fine, we're going to the road that the property is valued. If we do it, this is what we expect from you, so and so time. And there should not be this short-term arrangements. It can never give anybody any affordable housing. It can never. The short-term arrangements can never work out. So, yeah. That because they don't have any security to protect their interest there. The government is not in the job. There's just laziness in governance. That's what to do. That's whatever we are saying revolves around all this. So long as there's laziness, the banks will be afraid. They must do their business. And the only way the water must find this level. Look, I can't protect myself giving you money. Let me go to where I can find it. I can protect myself. And we can never, we're no longer talking about for the worst. Beautiful. The mortgage these things, yeah. Beautiful. That's what I want. That's what I want you guys to go to, because organizations like the NDIC, these are doing their jobs all this while. Has it prevented the banks from falling? So the issue is that it's like everybody on the shelf, whatever they're saying, they're just theoretical, and so they know what is happening. No matter what language you speak, the bank knows that they cannot go and protect themselves, giving their resources uncollateralized to somebody, or you call it affordable housing, just because there's no charity. It's not charity they are doing. It's not charity. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Chairman. Permit me to lend my voice to the discussion. I don't want us to lose the focus of this discussion. Assessing fund for affordable homes. How do we assess fund for affordable homes? And by our group to look at the collateral structure. Now, from what I could deduce, what we are seeing is not affordable homes. We are looking at the high network client now, or developing for high net worth people. Let's look at the end-SARS generation, the youth, who is just coming from graduation, and you are asking him to come and bring a collateral. You are asking him to bring a CFO of a property that worth $10 million. Where does he get it? Now let's come back home. All those things, $10 million. I said $10 million, or even 10 million naira, sir. So let's come back home. I see this idea of collateral as theoretical structures laid down or given down to us from the people that brought us up. It does not meet the recent and modern Nigeria. The bankers have evolved programs for themselves. If you see a banker who wants to get a car loan today, in a token of R in his bank, they give him. And what is he using? He's using his job. He's using his job. Most of us in real estate now, if you are seeking for a tenant, which is also a part of the affordable home, it's not necessarily everybody must go and buy. You can rent. You are looking at affordable and sustainable home. I may prefer to rent an apartment. I may be somebody on transit. I don't want to stay in Lagos for a long time. I need a place to hide my head. Why don't we look at the job security? And we are doing it already. In our different offices, when you are securing a tenant, you ask, where do you work? Oil company. It is not the work that is guaranteeing him. It is not the person. It is a job that is guaranteed that you know that he has a steady flow of income coming to affordable homes. Can they assess that? Can they use that as form of collateral to assess the home? If you are looking at affordable home, if a young man is earning 2.5 million per annum, at least from the record we have had now, 83 million Nigerians are living below $200 a year. So, $200 a year, 137,000 per annum a year, and it's true. Most of the people you see in the market, most of these young guys at Alaba market who are operating your phone and what have you, they are earning a living. How much are they earning? And they need a home. And don't let us forget that it is this home that revolves. If you want an egalitarian society, you need to come back to the homes where a man lays his head, where he's comfortable. So if you want to give me a comfortable apartment, a comfortable home, so to say, you need to bring down that collateral. So I'm trying to suggest the secure a job that is secure. A good job should be able to afford a man a home. You can structure that. The job should be like the collateral. That is one. Two, I came across something of recent. In my office, we went to do evaluation. And let me be direct, Globus Bank is doing that for people and for young guys. And the guy is using the chattel. He's into a restaurant. And I was amazed when we got there. The quantity of kitchen utensils that this guy has. When we did the valuation, it was running to millions. Ordinarily, if you are going outside, you won't know the worth of that kitchen. And the guy said, this is what I have. And we were able to do the valuation, and we gave the bank. This is the worth of this guy. And if he's asking for this amount of money, what he has, by way of intangible assets, can take care and can secure the loan. And I think the bank look at it. So if you look at chattel, some of those things are, this may be funny. Part of the chattel, if you look at some of our women in this Lagos market, the kind of weave on they have on their head, the cost. If you see a woman that's growing to 400,000, so if you see a woman that has a shop of weave on, I'm talking about chattel now. If you value that shop and the goods they have in that place, it should be. That's why most of the times when there is a fire incident in their shop in Lagos Island, you see the way they mourn. You ask yourself, why are they getting bereaved to this extent, if not because of the worth in those shops of those goods? So we should be able to let banks know to come down this level of standard and bureaucratic nature they have imbibed on us for a long time, and let them meet the real and modern Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
When we're talking here about collateral for affordable housing, are we meeting and speaking as developers and real estate people, or as consumers of the affordable housing? Because if we're talking about accessing funds for development, that's probably what I assume we're talking about. So we're not representing homeowners who are trying to access collateral to purchase. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about everything. Okay. So another way we could look at it is if someone is trying to do affordable housing and they have massive land, because usually affordable is usually, in Africa. Yeah. So if you have that and you're trying to do a development of 200 units, for instance, you could ask for a loan for 30 units using your land as collateral, because it's probably worth a lot more than that. And once you access that, because if your land is worth, yes, my land is valued as so and so. I need money to start. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it goes back to what I said in the beginning. If you have your own equity contribution other than the land, and you start by, because we're trying to look for a way forward. You know that it's affordable housing is going to happen, right? It's going to happen. It has to happen. So we can be the ones who come up with a way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying that in a lecture delivered by Hernando de Soto, a Peruvian economist, he said this #1 also in the world and in Spain, he said that this country started modernizing by first of all creating an identity for everybody. And he gave one narrative. He said he traveled to United States. At the airport, they said, identify yourself. Say, oh, my name is Hernando de Soto. I said, no, identify yourself. He didn't understand what they did until they asked him, say, where's your passport? It's ordinary touching his passport. They knew everything about him. His address, the year he was born, where he lives, the kind of house he lives, everything. This is even where the government needs to start to provide that trust by the banks to be able to give charity. We call it charity in brackets now to anybody. Here, first of all, you even go and apply for the CFO you're talking about, because many of us have experienced all this. For years, you won't have your document. Ordinary deed of release. Even after you have paid my loan, give me deed of release. It takes years for them to register it again. So when you have all these challenges, the banks are not ready to wait. They must stay in business. So let the government even do what they provide that security for the banks to operate. These platforms have not been created. You take a loan, you run away, and the banks cannot continue pursuing you. So they go to easy landing, also what they want, and that's happening to each and every one of us. So the people who are most vulnerable, they remain unprotected, and they are such. You can't be talking about affordable housing when these matters have not been sorted out. There has to be that security provided for those who will provide them. Because if you talk about, that is exactly what I'm saying. So sincerely speaking, this matter we're talking will remain in the rhetorics until what needs to be done has been done. Yes. Yeah. No, beautiful. Beautiful. Now see, this is one out of how many banks in Nigeria now who are looking it that way. You know, they are ready to take that risk, provide using ordinary chattel. Okay, fine. Please, beautiful. If it is happening, that's a very major step in going towards the affordable housing thing we are talking about. That is, if the banks can trust using the ordinary chattel, or maybe considering the place you work, I say, this is enough security for us. You understand? Because I have been involved in people coming using the property we rented to them. They go and clone our documents, and then before they go and take loan with our property. I even have, apart from one I had more than 10 years ago, one is just we're in court now. Because Amcon, they called the police. They came to seal up the house about 2 months ago. See, what is happening? Oh, that we came to take a facility. Which kind of facility? When did this one happen? So you see, people. I'm telling you honestly. No, I'm telling you.
On that, sir, let's put it in perspective. The challenge we have is lack of records.
That is exactly what I'm saying.
There's nothing wrong if you have a long list. I cannot use this tenure of that list to take a loan.
Even though you are not the Lord.
Yes. If you register with this, if you have about 25 years, even 15 years is well registered, you can take a loan in bank on that facility. So far, the laws are there. Say you have 15 years in this, you can do 10 years with the bank. They look at the structure of it, they look at your tenure. The challenge we have in this respect is there is no documentation. There's no documentation.
That's what Fernando Soto said.
Part of the club in assessing on using that collateral to get collateral from banks. Lack of data is an issue. if we have a credible database in Nigeria, honestly, it's not an issue. If I'm in a very good place and I have the prime location, and I have 15 years lease, there's nothing stopping me to approach a bank and use my tenure to get a loan. So let's look at that data. Of course, when you are talking of data, sir, you have approached, the letter will have gone to the... Of course, yes. Of course, that's what I said. If it's registered, if that tenure, sir. Excuse me, sir. We are trying to say the same thing, sir. Look at it, sir. If I take up a tenure of 25 years lease with you, sir, knowing fully well that to develop properties, you can't use your personal money. You need to get to bank and get loan. I have a lease of 15 years or 25 years. I register it. The essence of that legislation is because you are aware. You are going to sign for me before I take it to registration. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. It's only that is the issue. That is the issue. Nigerian mentality. The country.
To repay back the this one's cloned it as their property. Said this one's cloned it as their property. That's criminal.
That's what they always do. They don't clone it for 10 years.
So let's look at possibilities. What options? We need to learn.
We need to learn.
Thank you so very much, sir. What's your name? Thank you, Mr. Olaji. Thank you. Madam just came in, Mr. Olaji. Very strong member of Red and 2. You're welcome. Let's hear from that. Mr. Shegun, I'm sure you have a few things to say. So we're looking at the collateral options. Collateral options, yes. Banks,
not really interested in giving you anything. We have done several projects, and also the mortgage banks, they now ask you to present your own C of O collateral for the third parties, which is now a major problem. Prior to that, the property used to be the collateral for the off-takers, but the unit. But now you must provide the subsisting document alongside, yes, the C of O. Both you must also provide another alternative document as a collateral. You see, that is individual or the corporate organization providing. So for you to go to any bank to get, and you also check also the interest rate for you to build. The best form of collateral you can do now for me is to seek for other people's money. I've been in this business for 15 years, and Agview for the last 12 years. We have approached bank in several times, and we've been, eating the rock. And but we only we have collateral, and despite some of the collaterals, possibly maybe in the third parties which we bought, are not even acceptable. So you can now see the problems. I like to agree with what the chairman said, that about data. We don't have. We have, but I like the BVN. We all have our BVN. We all have our NIN numbers. All this should be synchronized together to form data. But I don't know. What sound? It's not so like it's complicated. We had an issue about 2 months ago. The AMCON just boxed into our office and said they want to seal off the place. A property we bought about 2 years ago on the Ikorodu Road, and said the property was used as a collateral. And it was actually a case of mistaken identity. But they moved out everybody. They chased everybody out. It was a tough matter. They marked the building. It was so tough. That day was, no. It was a wrong. So you can see the problem of.
Many crooked guys use those CFOs, okay, as collateral to the bank several years ago. Many. So I'm very positive that's what happened. For me, affordable housing in Nigeria is a hoax. In Nigeria, we should not be talking about affordable housing. It's just fraudulent. If government is not fully in support of this project, it will not work. And if government is really serious, they won't even need, most times, private developers. Jack Conde did not use private developers, but he delivered low-cost housing. He delivered affordable housing. So I don't like to talk too much. All I'm saying is, if government is ready, if from federal to state, in fact, remove federal, if the state governments are serious, they know what to do. They have the land. State government have land. They have the billions. They have the money to do it. They have the land, they have the money, they have the technology. Go to housing ministries in all these states. You find your colleagues there. You find core professionals. Yes.
They will fail because they have several other things calling for their attention.
If they want, if they are sincere, you have the land, okay? You have, number one, you have the land. Number two, you have the cash. Wait. They can. That's if they want to. The only PPP that you tell me about that I'll listen to is if they have a strong, they can partner with a strong marketing company, okay, who will start selling off plan or whatever.
Government is not in the business of such development. They are to provide infrastructures and the enabling environment. By the time government is going into their constructing, they will fail.
That is what I'm saying. If they are not sincere, are you with me? They must be intentional about it.
Sincere.
If they are not intentional about it, it will not work.
What we are saying is give developers land, for instance. Let us individually bring our money to finance, develop it. Like you said, they have the land. But if they won't give you money to develop.
The moment the cost of land is taking off construction,
Okay, sorry.
My point is,
good
they
afternoon,
must be intentional about it. That's my point. If they are not serious about it, it won't work.
Okay, sorry, sir. Sorry. Good afternoon. I've been following the discussion before I even got here, and from my observation, the dimension our discussion has tilted is like the affordable housing is not possible. I want to believe it is possible. If we're talking about affordable housing, I think we're just talking about it on the holistic angle. We need to segment it. Affordability is different per person. A 5 million naira house is affordable to some people, while 50 million naira house is affordable for some people. And the younger generation coming up now, I employed somebody in the office, and this guy said he won't take less than 300,000. A young graduate, fresher. 300,000 naira. Yes. Oh, the thing is, we even forgot to send him offer. He didn't resume. So they know what they want. Okay, so when we talk about affordable housing, right? He didn't show up, and I brought him in. He will do the work. He knows what he's talking about. So I accepted, and I said, okay, no problem, resume. Yes, of course, if that means he's sure of himself. So let me see you perform. Let's see. So what I'm trying to say is...
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen,
give us a few minutes.
I think we've come to a point where we need to put a stop to our conversation.
Right.
And the leaders of each group
exactly, because
should summarize the key take-home points for presentation in the next 5 minutes.
Some big organization, if you have to segment affordability, right, the companies should also come in. Yes, if we want to wait for the government, it will take a very long time. So when a big company goes to the bank will look at their turnover. And we keep saying the bank does not want to get. I think they're changing their narratives now. They're changing their mindset. Because a lot of small financial companies have come and given. Now they called me. They said I could take loan and all that, and they told me to download an app. I downloaded it, and they said based on my turnover, I can take 4 million uncollateralized. If you go to BOI will tell you to bring 2 guarantors, and then you can take up to 20 million naira. So I believe a lot of things is changing, right? So we still need to believe that this will work. We only need to create products. No, that's just an example. It's an example, like before, you can't even take 500,000. I personally have done loan 500,000 that it was unsuccessful. Right? So if somebody say, okay, you've not seen me, I didn't go to the bank, I'm not filling any form.
Our time is overspent.
So that means they're changing.
We've done 55 minutes instead of 30 minutes.
That is in the market right now. And
distinguished participants,
with 5,000, people are contributing.
This is the point that we need to come together again and let each group
finance, isn't it?
lead,
can use their inventory
summarize the key take-home points.
Let's change
Thank you.
What used to exist. What are the real things we can do to actually support this motive to make it work? I wish I can say a lot, but the time is running out.
Yeah, what are the collateral options aside from the one that is now the structure? What other options?
You are the one speaking for the group. You and both of you are the one speaking for this group. Sir, both of you are the one talking for this group.
Please summarize your take-home points.
Can I just so Mr. Chairman, I think what we said the land being financed with good title, that's one. Equity contribution.
Please summarize your take-home points.
Then we said taking the land being financed, we should also look at bare land where you have some.
Otherwise, I will summon the power of darkness for NEPA to strike.
Are we together? Okay, so that's land being financed, equity contribution, bare land with significant improvement on the land. Then for the demand side, brother here said we should look at the cash flow of the person being the person in question, and the fact that he has steady income. So we're looking at cash flow for people who have steady income. Then we look at number 5, charge on chattels or inventory of the potential customer. Then we looked at number 6, charge on unexpired leasehold. That was what brother here was talking about. So if you have a leasehold, let's say 50, 60 years, we should consider taking a charge on that leasehold. Then we looked at market segmentation too. So look at market segmentation. Okay, so that's it. 7 points. Okay, so guarantees for cooperative. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that's 8 points.
Let me also add the developers or the participants in the built industry. We can form a formidable team and come up with a solution. If chairman, secretary, and with that one now you can now begin to donate to reputable people you know. If the company of chairman, the secretary, the treasurer could come together, they can pull some funds together, and on recommendation, some people can access funds to get some houses and units.
20th of October. In that program, I will advise, if you are chanced, please come. It's ticketed, it's just 50K if you are not a Redder member. We are bringing finance partners, people that will talk so much, and some people that have the money. I want to partner with Redder members. So now, because for me, I believe that if affordable housing cannot work, we have all failed. Because number one, I dream of having my own property at age 30. It failed. Even I remember that my father was able to build his own first house at 50 something, almost 60 years, which I don't want to follow. I was just like one of the privileged ones that at 40 or 30 something I was able to build my first house. So I was thinking that, is it possible for somebody that just finished university, maybe 27, 30, by the time you're starting working at 35, you have your first house. So how will that work for such a person? So are you saying where he works, and the person doesn't even have a job in oil company? Maybe he works with me as a developer, he works with some other companies, indigenous company, not multinational. How will such a person be having, and he's still a young boy, he has not married yet, the first single house with, one would put his family, maybe a 2-bedroom terrace or 2-bedroom bungalow, just like what Agview does normally. So how will, in Starkview, maybe I should send the question, you have young guys in that have bought so many of your properties. So how do you finance them? Do they give you like cash straight off, or their payment plans? Buyers, client, buyer, young guys.
We have different plans. We have plans for 3 years payment plan. We have 2 years, and we have 1 year. So as it goes up, you have more interest to pay, and we have not job you have to be paying. Like the lowest property we have is 6.5, but to start with, you can start with as low as 250,000. A bungalow, 2-bedroom, carcass structure, carcass. That's the affordability we're talking about. Carcass, uncompleted. So you pay for 3 years, have the 2-bedroom carcass, then afterwards you can do your finishing, and then you've got to finish up your payment. We have the houses built already. Over 3 years. Yes. We usually give possession at 70% before, but they misuse the opportunity, so they won't pay again. Especially when COVID came in, it affected them.
I'm trying to react to the chairman's question. That yes, we need to change our orientation in this part of the world and rent to own. A young man who is just graduating and is earning salary, he needs to cultivate the culture that you have to save. It's still the same way, man. We have to look at our orientation. Some of those things, man, does not come with your level of work. Yes, sir.
Let me just. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Definitely, sir.
Can we go back now?
Give that one to you have to look at security.
Please, the IT people, can we have a round of applause for ourselves? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Well done. Thank you very much. Group A, please can you identify the group lead who will be making your presentation? The IT and technical team, please, we have guests online watching this event, and I'm sure they will also be agitated to ask one or two questions. Please, could you kindly send a message and let us know if there are questions coming from the online platform. Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of the chairman of the Real Estate and Construction Group of the Chamber, the chairman, Hakeem Oguniran, who is unfortunately unavoidably absent as he's out of the country, I want to appreciate everyone that has graced this occasion. It's been very, very useful. And I can see the focus and attention and contributions at each group's participation, and I'm quite impressed. It clearly shows that folks at this forum are really, really interested in enhancing growth possibilities in the affordable homes bracket. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you. Any question from the online platform, please? Any question? Okay, so Group A, would you be kind enough to the Group A lead who is going to be presenting the outcome of your deliberations? Can you please come up? Thank you. A round of applause for the team lead. And you are Mr.
Franklin.
Franklin, please sit. Please sit. Sorry. Group B. Who is the team lead for Group B? Group B. Ah, okay. Thank you very much. A round of applause for him. Thank you. Please come. What's the name?
Toye Eniola.
Toye Eniola. Thank you very much for coming. Group C. Who is the team lead for Group C? Please, your attention is needed here. Thank you. A round of applause for the team lead of Group C. Thank you. Mr.
David Umana.
David Umana. Okay, thank you very much. And Group D. Group D. Adewale Oshinusi. Thank you very much. Thank you. I have some few questions from the online platform, and I do believe that either the MD of Family Owned Funds, Mr. Femi Adewale, or the Chief Investment Officer, Mr. Sani Yakubu, I hope you'll be able to respond to some of these questions. I think we should start with those questions so that we can then, after leaving that, go to the panelists. This is a question from Owa Ebube. What are your efforts to aid or facilitate the production and use of locally sourced materials for the building of these affordable homes? That's question number 1 from the online platform. The second question, I think you should just please take notes of this question and then we can respond after reading them. The second question is from Papa Charlie. And the question goes, the cost of cooling a dwelling place during severe heat is guaranteed to keep you in poverty perpetually. When we talk low-cost housing, is comfort taken into consideration? Cost of cooling for affordable homes. Selling for 7 million, 10 million. Another question from Owa Ebube. In what range, in terms of money, is a house considered affordable for the demographic you are trying to reach? Those are the 3 questions. And I do believe that this gathering will be honored to have the response of family-owned funds in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will answer or try to answer the first 2 questions. And Sonny is here? Okay, all right. So, Sonny, I think we have the target cost indicator, so you speak to that in terms of the pricing of the unit so we can be quite precise about it. But I think the first question relates to what are the efforts we are making with local materials. I think it's an important one, and it's a very major part of what Family Homes Funds aims to do for 2 reasons. In Sonny's presentation, he made the point that we're just not only about building houses, we're also about creating jobs. So in the building aspect, part of what we have to do, we know that one of the critical result areas for us is to put a downward pressure on the cost of those houses. And a critical strategy for doing that is to support the local manufacturing of building products. So I'll come to what we're doing on that. The second bit is obviously around creating jobs. We know that today about 83% of inputs into building, particularly the finishing materials, are imported from China. That is depriving the economy of much needed jobs, and that is why you see that 1.5 million jobs is one of our key strategic targets. So what are we doing? One is about partnerships. So as we speak today, we have a partnership agreement with the Nigerian Roads and Building Research Institute to explore different local materials. We're talking about pozzolanic bricks, compressed earth materials, to ensure that actually the materials that form the structure of the building can be made locally with the absence of cement. We are also on the back of that in discussions with at least one, possibly 2 developers who by themselves, outside of the work that MBRI are doing, are pioneering the use of compressed earth technologies. And I think that project is based in Taraba State, and I hope that is something that we can bring to the market very shortly. This is pure compressed earth projects or housing units that actually look extremely good. So I think I want to assure the questioner that this is a very significant area, but it requires partnership, and Family Homes Fund is quite keen to support both from the academia but also from the industry new technologies that ensure that we can locally produce materials that we use. But outside of new technology, what are we also doing in that front about local manufacturing? When discussion, for example, with BOI, and that is ensuring that we can offer local factories. You'll be surprised that in Nigeria we have factories that are making doors, that are making a number of basic house finishes, but have pretty much shut down because they've been overwhelmed by Chinese imports. So we're saying, look, if we give you a forward order for, say, 100,000 doors, can you, which is essentially a commitment, an offtake commitment, can you approach the likes of the Development Bank of Nigeria, the Bank of Industry, to raise finance, to buy new equipment, operational capital, to grow your capacity and employ more people to manufacture those doors? So those are some of the kind of things that the fund is doing. And that is beginning to bear fruit. On our current program, through the supply management team, we are working with the Timber Manufacturers Association in Nigeria to provide all of the doors that are being used on the current pipeline of projects that are financed by family homes funds. Not only is that creating jobs, but more significantly is reducing costs. We are getting those doors, I think, currently about 23,000 naira. The Chinese imported doors are coming in at almost 60% higher than that. So it's a double result for that. And I hope that we are going to extend those same kind of thinking to roofing sheets, to other elements of building input. With respect to the question from Papa Charlie, I like that name. The cost of cooling, I think you are absolutely right. I'm not sure that we have done as much here as we should, but I think it's an important one. One of the big risks that's facing housing in Nigeria, but particularly people on low income, is the energy poverty. As the cost of energy rises due to the changes in that sector, people will be faced with significant increase in their energy bills, which means that houses need to be designed in a way that takes advantage of natural ventilation. These are all things that, for those who are architects, we all learned in traditional African architecture 30 years ago, but somehow they are falling out of fashion. We need to bring them back again. Again, Family Homes Fund is not other. We are not designers, but we like to partner with the likes of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, developers, to ensure that, again, housing that are designed in a way that supports efficiency, energy efficiency for people on low income, particularly who are most vulnerable, is mainstreamed. And what I take from that question is really a wake-up call that, although we thought about it, we need to accelerate our own action as an organization to ensure that we put more emphasis and we encourage developers to explore designs that supports the energy cost, reducing energy costs for people on low-income housing. Thank you. I'll hand over to Sonny on the costs.
Yes, Ebube asked a very critical question with regards to what is the pricing range. And I was actually hoping that at some point in time, two very critical points that are related will also receive sufficient attention. And these 2 points are the issues around ensuring an off-taker base as well as building at the right prices. But let me go straight to answering the question first, and then we can look at the other related matters. So Family Homes Funds has done a review of affordability across the entire country. And we've come to the understanding that what is affordable in Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt or Rivers State, Aba, Newi, Onitsha is probably different from what is affordable in Taraba,
in, let's say, Ekiti, what is affordable in Sokoto. And so what we've done is split the country into 3 different ranges. And from our experience, we believe that these price ranges will allow for affordability based on the commercial nature of these various parts of the country. What is affordable in, let's say, Taraba, may not be what is affordable in Lagos, because those who are in Lagos may actually have a higher affordability range. So you can, as a developer, run the risk of building what is affordable but is not desired by those in that specific location. And just as has happened at some point in the history of our country, an affordable housing scheme builds houses that are still unoccupied a good number of years later. And between the cities, the very commercial cities that I've mentioned, and the rest of the country, we have a price range currently that is running anything from between 3-4 million to 20-21 million. Now, what is the philosophy behind this price range? I had a conversation with the gentleman from Exemia, and he said to me they're building between 25 and 50 million. And I asked him, if a director had 10 years left to retire, can he pay for a house that is 25 million? I want an answer from the hall. If a director, either in the state service or at the federal service, has 10 years left in his retirement, and you offer him a house for 25 million, is he able to use 1/3 of his salary? So the question is meant to help us understand the thinking behind the definition of what is affordable and what is not affordable. So we start by being realistic. What can our people afford? And you find out that anything that is outside of the range of 18 to 20 million requires, much more income than most of our people in that 83 million category. It requires much more than what they can afford if they will use 1/3 of their salary to pay for it. And this is the reason why we encourage all of our partners to think within that 3-4 to 20 million naira range. It's quite a range. So, and it's meant to cater for the whole country. You need to look at your design, you look at your environment, and you need to have a specific off-taker base in mind. A design without a specific off-taker base in mind will only concern itself with the cost base, but will not concern itself with an off-taker base. So this is indeed very important for all of the partners along the value chain in housing. Thank you.
Of course, I have another question from the online platform, but I will leave that till after the presentation from the group. I have the pleasure of inviting to the podium the team lead of Group A. Thank you very much. Okay. 5 minutes. Round of applause for him, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have the pleasure of presenting the outcome of the deliberation for Group A on behalf of the chairman of the group. The Group A was charged with discussing on acceptable collateral structures and options for assessing funds for affordable houses. And then we came up with a number of options. The first one is that we should consider taking a charge on the land being financed, that's the project site, as long as it has good title. Then flowing from that, we also consider the issue that most financial institutions do not want to take a charge on bare land. And then we thought that if there was some level of development on bare land, that we should consider taking that also as collateral. Then thirdly, we looked at the option of equity contribution by partners as a collateral option. Then fourthly, we looked at the option of taking a charge on chattels. Chattels owned by our partners, we will take a charge on those ones. And also housing inventory, housing stock also. Then we looked at taking at the possibility of taking a charge on the unexpired leasehold. So if a developer has an agreement with a partner and then he's giving a leasehold for a term, a lease for a term, we could consider taking a charge for that unexpired term of that leasehold. Then we looked at taking at guarantees from cooperative groups or any other group that our partners would form. If they could give us assurances, that guarantee from such groups could also suffice. Now, this with respect to the supply side. With respect to the demand side, we looked at taking assessing the cash flow of people who want to buy housing units, and then if we can ascertain that they have a steady source of income, that we could also just appraise them on their cash flow and then give them opportunities of owning a house. So I think in summary, that is what we consider. Then the last point, we identified the fact that affordability means different things, and that it is important that we segment the market and then look at so there are people who are in the low income, they need houses. There are people who are in the upper part of that market also, they need income. That if we're able to segment that, we'll be able to identify what is suited to each segment of that market. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for him. Amazing stuff. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I do think that notes are being taken so that we can have a summary of the outcome of this session. Because we have limited time, we are supposed to end at 12:45, and we are already almost at 1:45. So I will need to move with speed. So please pardon me. I know you have to go away for your businesses. The second group will come and tell us what they arrive at around the issues on acceptable land titling. Thank you very much. Acceptable land titling. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Our group deliberated on the acceptable land title for funding affordable housing, and it was generally agreed that there are two major titles that are acceptable for funding. One, certificate of occupancy, CFO, and the other one is right of occupancy, R of O. And we identify issues that are affecting these major two documents, namely, number one, bureaucracy in land administration, two, corruption in land administration, and we also identify double titles of land for some rare occasions. And all of these three factors affect both the supply and demand side of housing development. And after consideration of all these issues, we came up with this suggestion. One, that there is a need to establish a central registry at the national level, as well as in all the state governments, and all the states are to send all their land information to the central level as checks and balances. Number two, we also came up with a suggestion that all the state governments should establish geographical information system on land, and that where each state cannot do this, they should, on their own, they should contract it out with technical experts, taking a cue from the FCT, where a success story was recorded, and that this should be replicated in all the states of the Federation. We also come up with a suggestion that in lieu of CFO and or right of occupancy, that it is important that a letter emanating from the governor or secretary to the state government should be written adopting PPP, forming an SPV to develop housing estates. That covering letter could be accepted as a in lieu of CFO, pending the time that the CFO will be ready in the situations where CFO or RFO is under processing. Then we also come up with the idea that the Ministry of Land should also give and confirm allocation of land in conjunction with the geographical information system of the state, pending when CFO is ready, that could be tender for fund acceptability for housing development. And also we also came up with a suggestion that there is a need to digitize and increase technology in land administrations and title. These are the suggestions we have come up in acceptable land title. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Those are quite incisive points. But like I said, we'll go through these, allow some inquiries to take place after their presentation, and then go to the summary of the event. So on that note, I quickly go to the third group who discuss the issues around options for delivering off-taking assurances, which is affecting the demand side. Thank you very much. A round of applause for him.
Thank you very much. Ours was very simple. It was about the assurances to give to family home fund from the developers, and it was very straightforward for us. So we suggested to the organization that between 5 to maximum of 10% data of the off-takers should be accepted by family home fund, and this was on the assumption that the concept in Nigeria is C for I, or seeing is believing, that when once money is being released to the developer and a little job is being done, and we believe with that, off-takers will definitely come. That if developers are able to provide maximum 10% of the off-takers for the project, that will go a long way. And we also talked about letter of interest, that the organization should also look into that some organizations, some cooperatives, unions can give letter of interest, that the organization should also accept that, and of course find a way of making that a registrable instrument also, and that also has to do with the different types of development, depending on the markets that the developer is trying to serve, that such letters should be accepted. I mean, then we also put up all of this on the assumption that the developer has marketing strength, and with that, if given money and also if able to provide a very little percent of the off-takers with their marketing strength, they will be able to sell the project and in turn be able to meet up with timelines. And of course, we also looked at location, which is also a factor, that the developers can also take advantage of that and be able to foreclose as early as possible. And we even went further to suggest that one of the ways developers can also generate off-takers is to form cooperative unions and all of that in organizations and all. And all of these will assist in making sure that developers are able to get funding and they're able to partner with Family Home Fund to deliver affordable houses for Nigerians. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Last group, pricing and tenure. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, everyone. Issues of pricing and tenor. We looked at the 3 different bands in which you have split the entire country, and we mainly dealt with band A. We felt that the prices that you currently have, for example, for a single bedroom bungalow, 5 million for band A, we felt operating in an area like Lagos, your sites will mostly fall at the outskirts of Lagos, because your pricing for service plots at 12,500 naira per square meter will come to about 8 million for a full plot, and we feel you would nearly move into another state to achieve that in Lagos, except you review your sort of design, because nobody would want to put a 5 million naira bungalow on an 8 million naira plot. We looked at material costs, and we thought you can have material substitutes, not material compromise. So in the area of cement, for example, instead of using your Dangote 12X, your higher price cement, you can go for the lower grades that conform to building standards. We talked about collaboration with producers of building materials. Talked about collaboration between building professionals and real estate, and the professionals and the practitioners you find in the real estate ecosystem. They can always move as a group from one site development to the other to reduce costs and save time. We also talked about using prototype designs within the same band. We looked at the use of modular and prefabricated building components. In standard building design, most people go for their 150 mm block or the 2 to 5 millimeter blocks. And we thought in modular and prefab construction, you can achieve 75 millimeters. You can even achieve 50, depending on the material and technology adopted. So infrastructure cannot be overemphasized because it's a huge cost in development. And we feel the influence on government to donate land or subsidize the cost of land in certain locations would greatly help to reduce pricing. Regarding tenor, we always plead with lenders to be generous with tenor, because it would take an average of about 18 months to generate instrumental payments in real estate, and you need adequate time to sell. Then also, we also looked at government actually ensuring that they keep FMBN, that's the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, to their mandates of providing mortgages and not financing construction. That is a key area. Well, these are the main points that we discussed under pricing and tenor, and we hope it greatly influences the discourse.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Another round of applause for all the groups that have made presentation here today. All the groups, quite impressive. Unfortunately, I'm wearing a different cap today. I would have loved to enter into this discussion, but today I'm a moderator, and I know that our time is fast spent. But Mr. Adewale, you alluded to a point that is very germane to the growth of the sector, and it has to do with initiatives around partnering with manufacturers of construction materials to be able to build a solid background for inputs into the construction stream. The reality of the matter is that we are a consuming nation. We are not a producing nation, and that is what is affecting principally the value of our naira today, because everything we just decide to bring, the earlier we start producing locally, not only in the construction realm, in all the areas, chances are that it will have impact on the macroeconomic dynamics in the country. I have one more question from the online platform, and I think, this is very easy. How can cooperatives get involved in the affordable home for its members? I don't know if you want to respond to that. I'm sure your business will always be dealing with cooperative societies and all that. Do you want to respond to that, please? Sonny? Okay. Please, gentlemen and ladies, if you have any question, this is the time for you to prepare your question. We'll simply just take 3 questions so that we can hand over the microphone to the MD of Family Owned Funds for his closing remarks.
Okay. So cooperatives and other such organized groups form the core base for the off-takers. And we encourage all of our developers to first work on identifying cooperatives and any such organized groups to easily establish the off-taker base. That way you can bounce your design off a group of people realistically who can off-take what you have designed. We also do have a platform for working directly with cooperatives. Our incremental housing concept, for example, does not only assume working with microfinance institutions, but it also has a way to work with cooperatives to identify their members who require loans to improve their houses or complete their houses. So this, I think, it's a very, very important point. If a cooperative does have its own land and has its own off-taker base, we're very happy to sit and discuss making housing available for its members. This is a very, very important question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Questions from the audience? Do we have further questions? Please just identify yourself, your name, where you work.
Thank you so very much. Bamdele Onlaja is my name. I'm the chairman of Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, Redan, Lagos. I have so many of my members here. Thank you firstly for the organization of this program. I want to speak directly to Mr. Adewale and the team of the Family Owned Funds. I know that you have long-lasting relationship with Redan. Our president, we know you very well. You're a friend of the house. But I just want to appeal that we need more of your presence in Lagos. But most of your presence are in Abuja, where the president of Redan and all the national school sits. We in the southwest, Lagos to be precise, which is the largest real estate commodity property development in Nigeria and the commercial hub of any business in Nigeria needs your presence. Now, we need your presence in terms of funding. We have good deals for you that I want to challenge that we sit down together. Let's look at what we can do together and make housing affordable. I love housing being affordable. Over the years, as an ex-mortgage banker, I've always gone to know that to an extent, mortgage has failed us, even in this part of the world. It works in other countries. I don't know why it's not working here. But thank God for people like you, that has, the government have been able to support and backed up with so many finances. So let's look at the structure where we can work together quickly, because that's the reason why I came here with my members to say, okay, let's come here. That's that they are all here, plenty. So we want finance We want to finance. We have off-takers. We have land with good title. CFO, Gazette, anyone you want. And all we want from you is finance. And I can assure you, once you do it through Redan, your money will come in billions. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the team from Family Home Funds are already taking notes. Do we have any other question? Two more. There is space for two more. Can we be gender sensitive? The ladies in the house. Maybe just one question from the lady. Let's be gender sensitive. If there was none, maybe we just. You want to? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shola Akinpelu, and though my question is not exactly, it's housing related, but from an investment perspective, and I think maybe explaining an eureka moment that happened to me in the last 2 years would dimension that question. So before now, I felt like housing wasn't. I'm an entrepreneur actually, and then I felt like, you know what, I'd rather not tie. I'm talking from a consumer perspective now. I'd rather not tie my funds down owning a home, because I feel like, and please, these are my opinions as at then, that it was more of a cultural thing. From an investment perspective, I was thinking of how I could triple that money and then, go into business. And then COVID happened. We imported a lot of inflation from the West, as we established today. And then homes that were going for like 70 million, in say about 18 months ago, are now going for 140. And then the light bulb went off again. Like, wait a minute, you could have doubled that money if you had, paid for a home. So here's my question. Is there any way that we can dimension, and this could be from the distribution part of the value chain, is there any way we can dimension home ownership even as an investment itself? I know that we are discussing for the impact aspect of this, which is huge. I'm an impact, I am in impact and development. But then it would appeal to me if I see that I could triple, I could, I think that that's one part of the marketing side that people are not exactly seeing. But hey, can we put it on the table? Thank you.
Thank you. One more question.
Okay. My name is David Umana. I quickly want to ask about the issue of transfer of title. In a case where maybe two companies are coming together to do a development, and I mean the title of the property is in the other company and the other one is supposed to develop, how do you reconcile that? Do we need to transfer that title to the developing company? And then also, we have noticed that over the years, Family Home Fund has also been working mostly with governments. Like in Akwa Ibom, you see, and other states, that they tend to do more things with governments. I don't know if, do we really have rooms for private development, joint ventures and all of that? Because, I mean, practically speaking, you see that they seem to be more comfortable dealing government to government. So, that's just what I want to ask.
All right, thank you very much. I think your first question is a general question. It's not essentially directed to family home funds alone. Am I correct? It's a practice in the industry. Two parties come together, one has land, one doesn't have land or have money. I think it's a function of the agreement you are structuring, really. With the development loan from family home funds, okay, I better give it to the MD then. I'm not qualified to speak.
Yes, so as the chairman had hinted, so if the development agreement you sign with your partner allows you to pledge the land as security for a loan, you'll be willing to take a charge on the land. So your partner would also have to sign a tripartite legal mortgage. So that's something that can be done. So I'll leave the other question to the MD. I think.
Oh, the second question. Okay, no, I have it here. I thought I would take all of the questions at once. Should I answer this red and one?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, let me say this first. I think that this probably I think I have going about 2 memorandums of understanding with Redan. And I think the view is we need to move from memorandum of understanding to actually building houses. Okay? So in terms of our relationship with Redan, yes, we have a strong relationship at the center, but increasingly we are developing relationships at the local level. The last time we did this event in Enugu, after a general session, as we actually had another session with Redan members specifically to look at how we can work closer. And I think I will ask that my team try to do the same thing with you today or tomorrow if you have the time. Let us see what we can do together. You know, we want to work with you. We don't build, you build. Therefore, we need you. And I think what we just need to explore is how do we work together? Where are the opportunities? How can we help you to be successful? Okay, thank you very much. So we are quite keen to do that. The related question, okay, I think it came from somebody saying about governments, right? Look, I think that this policy discussions has moved beyond private and the public. It's very difficult to do anything of the scale that we are looking to do, and I hope that you are also looking to do, looking at it from the lenses of just government and private sector. If there's any value that we can bring to the table, is ensuring that public and private sector work together. If you are looking to build a 1,000 units project, which is the scale as a minimum that we're looking at, is extremely difficult for you as a private developer to do it without a very strong handshake with the government. Just because of the infrastructure implications, the traffic implications, and all of that. In the same way, it's almost impossible for the government to try to do it without a very strong handshake with the private sector. The key issue is that how do we make that relationship effective and efficient? Do we have the answers? It is no, but I think it's an area that we need to continue to develop and inform. Yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of family homes funds engagement on the financial side have been with state governments. But on the delivery side, I think I will be right in saying that every one of that portfolio, the actual delivery is being done by private sector developers. So on the financing relationship is with the government, just so that we have security of repayment, but on the delivery side, there is all with private sector developers. What we need to do is to make those two things work together, because currently the governments have a bit more influence in determining what private sector developers they work with. And I think that is an area of change that we need to address to ensure that we have a slightly more transparent and process that ensures that the best developers and the most able ones are the ones doing the delivery. But you are absolutely right that, but you also have a piece of work to do that. We all need to work together to improve where we are now. Can I go on to the other questions?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Madam Sholakwe raised the issue about home ownership and the wealth creation aspect of it. I think that's the way to go. I think you're absolutely right. I think the notion across most economies has been home ownership as a vehicle for creating wealth at two levels. One, the idea is that when people are able to buy their home, the capital gains, the inflation provides income for the family, and sometimes that can last for generations. And I think that is what supports the policy preference for people actually owning their homes, you know, and that I think just says more about why we need to ensure that some of the most economically vulnerable people in our society actually have access to home ownership, because we are just not housing them, we are giving them access to building wealth for themselves, but for their generations, and by implication, improving our own chances of national development and social equity. But more significantly, in the now, I think we are here, and one of the facilitators of this meeting is Mr. Akim Oguniro, who has been a big advocate of real estate investment trust. I think one of the key areas of interest for us is how do we get that investment thinking into the housing value chain, where you are having investors who are really not necessarily interested in the bricks and mortar, but they are seeing housing as a financial asset, and are seeing the cash flow that lies behind it. And I think that the REITs, which is one vehicle that you can use, is still significantly underdeveloped in Nigeria. I know that Hakim has done a lot of work on that. I think it's an area that can actually help all of us, that diverse capital into actually buying homes from developers, because the critical challenge for the housing market in Nigeria is that you have a very constrained demand side bit. Look, across the whole country over the last 3 or 4 years, we're only writing about 5,000 mortgages a year. When you have such a very small level of exit, there's only so many homes you can build, because you don't have a defined way of exiting. Okay, so I think that is a bit more work on real estate investment trust and similar vehicles. I think is an area, essentially is mutualizing housing. Okay, so that people don't necessarily have to own a house, but 5-10 people have shares in a housing asset that creates revenue in the same way that we all buy shares and things. I think it's a nice idea, and I think it's something that we will all need to work together to explore. I hope that I've answered most of the questions. Okay,
I think you have. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Round of applause for him. Distinguished participants, let me just note that it's important for you to have your name registered with your email addresses and telephone numbers. I do believe that there are some sheets kept downstairs when you were coming in. If you have not done so, please do so on your way out. The truth of the matter is that facts coming out of this conference are so massive. If we begin to read these out now as a communique, it will take so much time. And I'd like to crave your indulgence that you allow us send these to you via your email addresses that you may have dropped on the list downstairs. So if you have not done so, please kindly do so before you depart from here. Our time is fast spent, and I do think that at this point in time, on behalf of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, the President, Mrs. B.C. Adeyemi, and the Chairman in Council, the Chairman of the Real Estate and Construction Group, Akim Oguniro, and all the members of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce here present, we want to thank you for taking time to attend this session with the family-owned funds. For me, it's been a very useful opportunity to gain from your wealth of experience and ideas that have been crafted at this forum. And I do believe that as soon as the communique is going out, the family-owned funds will have enough base of suggestions and opinions to also be able to build their franchise on. I want to congratulate Mr. Femi Adewale for the successful hosting of this roundtable, accessing funds for affordable homes. And on that note, again, I need to thank our online platform members, those folks who have joined us online today. Please, a round of applause for all of you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you all. On this note, I'd like to invite to the podium Mr. Femi Adewale, Managing Director, Chief Executive of Family Owned Funds Limited, for his closing remarks and vote of thanks. And of course, I believe Family Owned Funds has also provided lunch for all of us. So please don't go away. Have your lunch before you go. It's loaded. I can tell you that there's so much money in Family Owned Funds. Thank you.
It's only for housing.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think all that remains for me is again to thank all of you we don't take the fact that you have spent the better part of today out of your very valuable time for granted. So please, on behalf of the board, the management and the team from Family Homes Funds, please accept our heartfelt gratitude for the contributions that you have made and the presence that you have and your presence here today. As I said at the beginning, the fund, but not just the fund, all of the players in the housing sector understand the enormity of the challenges and the opportunity that we have. Given the level of housing need that faces us in Nigeria, and our ambition around that is huge. And I hope that following on from this engagement, that we can invite you and we can work with you towards a journey that realizes that, that ambition. The truth is that to realize that ambition, we need you. We need each other to ensure that we realize that ambition. On the group that I sat in, I want to make it clear that we're not talking. We need to move our own mindset from building 500 houses a year and create a team or a group of developers that are able to do 10, 20,000 units a year on a consistent basis. That is the scale of our ambition. But beyond that, down the value chain is about creating jobs through insurance companies that are providing guarantees for people to own their houses against their rental and mortgage incomes, provide manufacturers that are providing all of the key inputs that go into the building sector. So it's a huge ambition, and it's not for Family Homes Funds alone to do. We need you, but I think the assurance I can give you today is that, one, that we are committed to working with you and supporting you in every way that we can to make that happen. But more significantly is the fact that we are open to new ideas. We are open to some of the suggestions that you have made today, and I can assure you that we will take those discussions very, very seriously. I know that the chairman has said that you should please put your name and your addresses. I'm committed to us being accountable around these discussions, because we don't want to take the time that you have spent here for nothing. So we will take the names and addresses, we will summarize all of the key points that we have made and create a mailing list so that periodically you will have news of the progress that we have made on the suggestions that you have made. Those that we can take on board, either as they have been made or in a varied sense, you will get to know of them. Those that we are unable for various reasons, we will also let you know about them and why we cannot, in case you want to give us another idea. But we want to keep this dialogue open. Secondly, with respect to Redan, again, we'd like to have a side discussion with the Lagos Redan to look at some more close involvement. I hope that in doing that, we will not be doing anything that violates your corporate structure, but if that is okay, I will be available today to have a discussion with you on some very specific engagements on projects in Lagos. So let me end from where I started, and to thank every one of you, to thank particularly the Nigeria-British Chambers of Commerce for your hospitality, for your partnership, and for your support in making this happen. Thank you very much, and I want to wish you a very good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I believe we've had a very engaging event like we wanted to at the beginning. So thankfully, everything is over now. Thank you for coming, taking the time, like the MD has said. So it's time to have lunch now. That's the final activity. So the ushers are going to lead us table by table so that there is no confusion there. And also there's going to be a barcode here to get your feedback about this event. So please make sure to scan it now. Make sure to scan it now, please. Don't leave if you don't do it. Thank you.